Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's been a while, but we are back on the channel, starting our Dragonflight Season 1 guides. Today we're going to be starting with the Azure Vault. Now, we're just going to go through everything. I know it's been a while, but now we finally have some content to do some guides with. If you'd like any other guides on any other sort of content, please let me know in the comment section below. But we are going to start today with a 17 Azure Vault. And let's get into it. So we're going to start off here. Now, our comp is not ideal. Obviously, we have a Mistweaver monk here, a Windwalker monk, the Havoc Demon Hunter, a rogue, and me playing as my Blood Death Knight. Now, again, not the most ideal comp, but we make it work. It's only a 17. We are trying to push to get those 20s as soon as possible for the maximum amount of dungeon loot. If you guys don't know, for the difference from Shadowlands to Dragonflight, the dungeon loot has been increased from the highest you can achieve at a 15 to now the highest you can achieve at a plus 20. That includes the vault at the start of the next new week as well. So you want to make sure you're trying to complete as high as possible, going towards that plus 20. We're going to start with this pull here. We've got Conjured Lashes. Now I do have an auto marker that automatically, obviously, marks all things that I need to make sure my group interrupts. Now these lashes are really annoying because you need to make sure they're stun locked, and you need to make sure these casts do not go off. They're called Mystic Vapors. They put a dot on the entire group and it does stack, and it does a lot of damage if multiple go off at the same time, and your healer will not be happy. Also, you need to make sure that the erratic growth is stopped from the tree boy over here as well, which you can just assign one person to help out. The really good tank to deal with this is obviously a Vengeance Demon Hunter with a Sigil of Silence. It'll just nullify the entire pull. But you want to be doing this pull purely for the fact that you want to dodge all of these whelps that are circling around the rooms leading up to the first boss and the second boss as well. You don't need to pull them. If you do pull them, they will cast, and if you don't kill them or you let them cast, they will pull pretty much everything in its vicinity, including the mobs that are in stasis. So there's no need to pull those. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's one of the whelps there with its circle around it. So right here, we're also going to make sure that I grip one of the lashes on the left, and we're just going to pull the 4 lashes here, making sure we don't pull the whelps once again. Same concept here, Mystic Vapors, you need to make sure they are CC'd or interrupted in order for them not to go up. We make sure we kill these 4, and then instead of just running all the way down, you're just going to jump off the ledge to the left over here. You're going to wait for this whelp to go past, because again, you don't want to be in the vicinity, and you do not want to pull this whelp. So, as you can see, we tried to ring that. It doesn't get affected by it. I'm assuming because it's in the air, technically. I don't know how that really works. It should be affected by ring, unless the circle around it actually nullifies any sort of CC. Now, as you can see, these saplings will be a part of the boss encounter coming up. All they do is they just, when they die, leave a pool on the ground, which is a pretty quick cast as well, called Sappy Burst. So you want to make sure you're not in it. If you're like casting an I-beam or something, or you're in the middle of an animation and you don't get out straight away, you could end up just dying to 1 or 2 of those. So just be very, very careful of that. Now again, there's 3 sets of 4 of these saplings around here, and there's also 3 arcane tenders around. Each arcane tender needs to be interrupted by 1 person, so just assign 1 person to that for erratic growth, and then you can just pretty much pull the whole room, no problems. They don't really do much damage, so you're not really in any danger of dying. Again, just dodge the pulls that drop from the little blobs, and make sure you kill the tenders. Now, moving ahead a little bit, we're going to go into the boss fight. Now, the boss is going to knock you back as soon as you get in, and we're going to start the boss. So this one's going to be Leymor. It's going to place trees around the area. Now, the most important thing about these trees is you need to make sure that they all get removed. Otherwise, the remainder of the trees will deal excess amount of damage when he does his massive stomp later on during the fight. So right now is going to be Erupting Fissure coming up, as you can see by little wigs over here. It's going to be the tank mechanic, where you need to face it towards a set of trees, so you can remove a few of them first before needing to use your entire rest of your team to remove the remainder of the trees, which is right here. Explosive Brand, it'll apply this circle on each person. Everyone just needs to assign themselves to a bunch of trees and make sure they all get removed. Then all the saplings will spawn. You get a sapling per tree. Just make sure you go into the middle, AoE them all down, don't stand in the bursts, just like the mobs you did previously, and rinse and repeat. Very simple boss. There's really nothing to it. You just need to make sure the trees are done. If the trees aren't done, you're most likely going to wipe, depending on what level of the key it is. That's pretty much that fight. Nothing really more to say there. Now, Tyrannical is pretty hard at the moment. It does require a massive damage check. Also, just to reiterate, once you kill the boss, make sure you look for Sindragosa, which is over here. That is where the correct door is to exit. I made it a habit before of going towards any door I just saw open, and went the wrong way a few times. So, just in case you're like me, just look for Sindragosa. She will guide you to the correct path. Now, I'm going to go down this stairwell here, and there's going to be a few whelps, like we mentioned before, in the path. Now, they grow in size with the radius here, and they're going to decrease in size as well after a few seconds. Just be patient here. Don't try to rush this. This will save you a lot of time if you just walk past and you don't have someone clip one of these whelps, because then it'll spawn all of this stuff here, and these are very, very annoying mobs to deal with. Now, you're going to do these 2 arcane elementals here. All you have to do is interrupt Waking Bane, which is going to hibernate a player if it does go off. It's pretty much asleep, so make sure you interrupt that. The rest of it, it can go off. It's minimal damage, don't worry about it too much. Waking Bane is the most important thing. Arcane Bolts, it's just a tank hit. Your tank can soak it. As a DK, I'm just going to heal it back up. Nice and easy. Nothing too hard to deal with. These mobs, again, will appear in the platforms afterwards, so you know what to do with these mobs now that you've seen them already. So I'm going to click this book of translocation. It's going to bring us over here. Now, there's a bunch of very interesting mobs here. Now, you need to make sure there are very specific abilities that must be interrupted here and stopped. Otherwise, you're going to have a very rough time. Now, the Arcane Elementals we just spoke about. Waking Bane, very important to stop. Unstable Curator is going to just cast abilities, but also place a lot of massive AoE circles on the ground that you need to dodge, otherwise you get disoriented. And that can lead to very, very, very bad things, including mass wipes over and over again. Now, I pull all of these together because we have enough to deal with it. Now, we've got 4 elementals here, which again, Waking Bane is what we need to kick. And then there's going to be this Rune Sealkeeper. This is by far the most important mob and your main target to kill that you need to focus on in probably the entire dungeon. This will cause so many wipes for people that don't watch this guy's ability. So the ability you need to look out for is not Condensed Frost. It's going to be the second ability called Icy Bindings. Now, as you can maybe tell, Icy Bindings is going to root everyone in place. Now, couple that with the Unstable Curator that's going to put this down, which when it's casting Forbidden Knowledge, I'm pretty sure. If you get the root as well as this on top of you, you're just going to constantly take damage until you die. So make sure you 100% have someone on that Icy Bindings. Usually in my group it's me or our rogue, but you just have to make sure it's assigned. Otherwise things can go very bad very quickly, like I stated before. These mobs appear again later on. All you need to worry about, like I said, Icy Bindings is the most important thing. And then we have the next pack, which is going to be the Shard pack. Now, once you get over here, you've got these things called Crystal Furies. Now, the most important thing here is they do a frontal that follows the tank. So you need to make sure as a tank you're not facing it towards your group. It's going to cast something called Piercing Shards. Now, Piercing Shards needs to be stunned, knocked back, disoriented, anything to stop it from casting, because it puts a dot on you, and this does stack eventually if you pull too many or if you don't stop one of them. And it hurts a lot on a higher key. So you need to be very careful about that. So right here, all we're doing is dodging the forbidden knowledge that the big guy's doing, and then the Arcane Elemental, we're kicking the Waking Bane, and the Crystal Furies, now we have 2 of them, we're making sure that we are stunning the shards that they throw. Now you've got this big old Crystalline Thrasher as well, that just does an AoE, you need to make sure you're not in it, very simple stuff. And then the rest of the pull's pretty simple, right? It's just a lot of things to dodge, a lot of things to stun, but if you know what you're doing, and you're in a cohesive group, they'll get the point eventually. So we're going to move over here. You're pretty much going to do this entire platform, and once you've done this entire platform, you will be able to go down on one of the books that'll be in the center room. Do not use the books on the outer rim. That is to go back to where you started. Use the book in the inner rim. Don't make that mistake. Now this one's just the same pull, but it's just with 2 Furies instead of 1. Again, standard stuff. It's the same mobs over and over again. You get the drill. So once we kill the Curator and the Fury, the Book of Translocation will appear in the middle ring. You can take that down to the second platform, where you only have to do half of the platform in order to get to the next boss's room. So here we are going down to the second platform. Now again, same mobs. Nothing is different here. You're going to pull these constructs. These are the only ones that are new mobs here, and they're very easy to deal with. They put a frontal. This is not following the tank. This is a positional frontal, and you can move out of it, and it'll be a knockback. So all you want to do, you can pull as many of these constructs as you want. I'm going to pull probably 3 of them. I don't know if I do it right now. I'm pretty sure I do. So I'm going to run over here. Cool. I'm going to make sure I heal up. Now, Arcane Bash is the one you want to dodge. DH stood in it, so he's going to get hit a little bit. You can see how much damage it does on a 17 Tyran. It's okay, but on a Fortified, he's most likely dead. So we've got 2 Arcane Elementals, which need to be interrupted with Arcane Bane. And we've got a Waking Bane, sorry. And then we've got 3 Constructs where I just dodge the frontals. Make sure you're facing them away from the group. As per usual, everyone else should be behind the mobs, never in front of the mobs. That is the rule of thumb of DPS and healer. Never be in front of the mobs, always be behind the mobs. So I'm going to kill all these mobs. Nice and easy. I'm going to bring it back over here. And we're going to go to the next pack, which we've got that Rune Seal Keeper with the Icy Bindings. Again, I cannot reiterate how immensely important this is to interrupt. This must be interrupted. So we've got the frontal here, Icy Bindings, and Waking Bane from the Arcane Elemental once again. I'm going to kill those 3. Now once you've killed the Patrol, which is this guy, and you've killed those 2 packs, when you get to the book here, you just click the book to go onto the next side, and you'll be in Azureblade's room. Now these mobs, again, you've still got the Icy Bindings guy. He's still your main target. You've got the Vault Guards that are just pretty much tank hitters. Nothing really much else that they do. You just need to make sure that your tank is using defensives and ice cutters and not getting absolutely slapped. And then you've got the Astral Attendant, which is going to put circles on the ground. You just have to dodge. You can kind of see a trend here. There's a lot of swirls on the ground you got to dodge and a lot of interrupts you got to do. That's pretty much the whole dungeon in terms of trash mobs. It's just dodge things, interrupt, stun certain abilities. That's it. Pretty self-explanatory. You've got this Lieutenant here as well. Now, you can see this visual around it. This increases damage done by anything else that is in it, so it'll buff it. You need to make sure you do this by itself. You can do it with other mobs if you really want to, just to save some time, if you're on a lower key, but I highly suggest just doing it by yourself, unless you know for a fact that you can survive it. Because there's no point doing a pull that you think might work, but it ends up wiping your group and costing you the key. Just play smart, play slow, and you'll get through the dungeon. Unless DPS is a problem, then you'll know for next time. So this guy does the same stuff, Ice Cutter, and also does a frontal. This one does follow the tank, so make sure you do face it away from the group. Standard stuff here. We've got double Astral Attendance, which is going to be circles on the ground again. You've got a Keeper, which is the Ice Bindings, and you've got a Vault Guard, which is the Ice Cutter, just the Tank Buster. Standard pull once again. So we're going to clear all this. We're going to go to the other side. We're going to finish this off. I'm going to clear 3 on the other side. Seal Keeper, Attendant, double Attendant again. Exactly the same pull as before, minus the Guard. And then we're going to go on to the new boss coming up, which is Azureblade. Now I see a lot of groups having trouble with this because there is a lot of dodging and a lot of mechanics going on in a certain phase. I would recommend just killing the boss as soon as possible, so lusting on the pull. Some people like to lust during the phase with the ads up to get rid of the phase, but if you're going to have multiple ad phases, there's not really any point. You'd rather minimize how many phases you have, so you'd rather put more damage on the boss, if that makes sense. That's my way of looking at it. You can do it how you want. So we're going to start with Azureblade. It's going to summon a Draconic Image. I'm a DK, so I can just grip it in. You need to interrupt it, and then you kill it. Now, mind you, every time you kill an image here, including the ones in the phase, it's going to drop circles on the ground. Dodge it. Again, simple mechanic, standard thing about this place. Dodge the swirls on the ground. Beforehand, you probably also saw there was an ability called Arcane Cleave. Now, it's going to do an Ancient Orb as well. That's going to shoot a frontal. Please don't be in the orb. You will probably die. Very big visual, very easy to dodge. Now, Arcane Cleave, yes, it is what it says in the name. It is a cleave. Do not face this towards any other DPS or the healer, and healers and DPS do not stand on the tank ever in this fight. It will hurt a lot. Make sure you're using a defensive for Arcane Cleave, or you have, if you're a DK, a Death Strike ready to go. Now it's going to start casting Overwhelming. Now here we go with the 4 illusions. Now this is where it starts getting a bit spicy. Now you see there are 6 orbs that spawn, and they don't always spawn in this exact position. It could be in the middle of them, it could be anywhere else, but they're obviously going to be equidistant from each other, but they're always going to be pulsing. At the same time, you need to make sure you kill all 4 Draconic Illusions. Again, when one dies, swirls will spawn, so make sure you dodge the swirls. Now, the rule of thumb here is try to kill 1 at a time, and just make sure you assign yourself. So pretty much I just tell everyone to stay on me. Because we have a Mistweaver, Mistweaver's going to be hitting his own one, because you need to have, you need to use your damaging abilities and be in melee in order to heal as a Mistweaver. It's kind of difficult to heal as a ranged Mistweaver. So they need to make sure that they've got their own one, and they don't go with us because they don't want their target to die. They want to make sure that their target is alive the whole time so they can completely heal us. At this point, the reason why is because there's constant pulsating damage to the entire group. So we're just going to go together as a group, and we're just going to kill one by one. We're just going to go around, we're going to kill the last one here, and then the phase is just going to repeat itself. Again, very simple, rinse, repeat phase. Nothing difficult here. So we're going to go through this phase maybe 3 times. Usually it's about twice, and then you can kill the boss, so you do about 33% per phase, if possible. That's the goal anyway. If you do more than that, it's a little bit rough. It does take a while. It is a bit of a long boss if you don't have the damage, but again, like, it's early days. People are missing their tier sets. People are missing their best in slot gear. People are missing eye level. Like, it's kind of hard if you have bad RNG to get to a position where you can do 20s. But, you know, people are trying their best. Just gotta hope the RNG gods are with you as well. So, we're gonna finish off killing Azureblade. Once again, like I said before, Sindragosa will show you the correct way to go. Sindragosa will spawn over here by this beam of light. You can see it after every boss you kill. You've got to go this way, and we're going to go down to the next room. This, personally, for me, is the most fun part of the dungeon, because the amount of mobs you can pull is astounding. I love these rooms. Now, it's probably not the best for DPS or the healer, because there's a lot of jumpy boys here, but this is fun. So these rooms, you see any room like this, just pull everything. These barely do any damage to you, tanks. Like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Like, obviously you see me going down to, like, near death. I have Purgatory, by the way. But, yeah, like, you can survive this, no problems. The Hornswogg, the frogs, all they do is jump. And then these, what's it called? This, Breaker. This Draconid Breaker is pretty much the only one you need to really focus on as a tank. He will do a charge on you, like a shoulder slam, as you can see, indicated by the arrow on your head. Just you know, make sure you have a defensive, or you're not facing your back towards anything you could potentially stand in, like one of these runes on the ground. Now, before you ask, the runes on the ground, they will, if you touch them, it's like a trap. So if you touch them, just move out of it. It's pretty easy. It doesn't really do anything to you. You don't really have to worry about it too much. Now, again, these frogs are a little annoying just because they have quite a bit of health and they just keep jumping, so it's just best to stun them as much as possible. But besides that, they really don't do anything else. There's not really any significant mobs in here besides the Draconid that I told you about with the shoulder charge. We're going to walk down here. It's the same packs again. The frog, the looters, and the breaker. So again, watch for the charge. Don't get knocked down or knocked off the edge or anything like that, which is a very common thing for the last two mobs in this dungeon, which they're going to be two Draconid breakers next to a ledge. So just make sure your back is facing towards a wall or in the doorway, and you'll know what I'm talking about then. For those of you wondering what these symbols above our heads are, that's the new affix for the season, which is thundering. Now, if you need an explanation for thundering, let me know, and then I can put up a guide for thundering itself, or I can just explain it to you in the next video. But for a TLDR, pretty much just, there's going to be 3 people with a positive charge, 2 people with a negative charge, and you have a 30% buff to health and damage, healing and damage during the duration of the buff, but you have to remove the buff by running over the person with the opposite charge before the timer runs out, otherwise you get stunned and take a shitload of damage. That's the TLDR. I don't think there's anything really more to explain, just that you need to make sure you're aware of this. There are heaps and heaps of groups I've seen that just ignore this completely or expect someone else to run into you. You need to make the effort to run into them or meet them halfway. Because I'm telling you right now, pugs will stand their ground, and you will wipe, and people will blame people, and it will just be a bad time. I'll tell you right now. But most pugs have been pretty good with it from my experience. But how I know this is because I do viewer carries and viewer keys pretty much every day for the past 3 years on twitch.tv/TripleB. So if you want to ask any questions or you want to get into a run and we can help you out, please make sure you visit the channel. The link will be in the description. And yeah, ask away. But yeah, these rooms, as you can see, very simple, very standard, easy pulls. Pull the whole thing, kill it all. Nothing really to worry about except for dodging the stomps and the jumps and not getting knocked in to a trap. Now again, here's what I was talking about, the 2 Draconid breakers. You need to make sure that you're facing your back towards the wall or inside the doorway, not outside where you can get yeeted off the platform. Yes, I have had that happen to me before. No, do not ask me why that happened. We will not speak of that again. But we're going to kill these 2 Draconid breakers, and then we're going to go to the last 2 bosses. Now you're going to click on the translocation book once again. Go over to this phase of the instance, and this is Telash Greywing. Now these 2 bosses, oh boy, their damage output is a little bit rough. This one especially. Now this week, especially since it's bursting and grievous, this is 100% on the healer. It's a rough week for healers. My thoughts and prayers go out to you, healers. This week was quite rough. But we're going to pull the boss. Now, there are a few very important abilities here. Now, Frost Bomb is one of the most notable abilities, where it's going to put a circle around every single member. You need to make sure that you're not stacking over each other and you're spreading for this, but they're going to put a frost patch down, and it does an incredible amount of damage, so you need to make sure you don't take more than 1 tick of this, otherwise you're going to go very low. As you can probably see in a few seconds how low these guys get, and this is a 17. that was our DH taking 3 stacks, by the way. Or 3 ticks, and he almost died. Icy Devastator as well. It's going to cast and target one person. That person's going to have a bunch of AoE around them, so make sure they are away from everyone else. And it's just going to take a little bit of damage. Our Monk Karmas this, does more damage to the boss. Very standard stuff there. Then the boss is going to go up and do a cast called Absolute Zero. You need to stand in one of the 3 runes around the room. There's going to be 3 over here. And it's going to have a shield on it. Now, the shield is not going to completely immune you. It's going to reduce the amount of damage you take. But you're still going to take quite a bit of damage. So use the defensive still. It's gonna be rough. Now, again, you don't have to put your patches right next to each other. You have enough room before they start despawning. And yes, they do despawn. As well as these runes. We did try this, and I thought that the runes would crack and only 3, you could only be able to do it 3 times and the boss would have like a hardened rage kind of. But no, it actually reset after the 3 were destroyed. So, I mean, you can go for longer as long as your healer can keep up. That ends up being the case. So we're just going to drop the Frost Bombs again and we're going to walk out. We're going to have Icy Devastation once again. Immediately into another Frost Bomb. As you can see, the healing requirement is quite substantial. As soon as you get everyone up, they're all just going to go back down to 20% again, which is it's a rough time. Now, this boss has a lot of health, so we end up being here for a while, up until the point where we get the boss to about, I think, 30 or 20%, and we start losing people because our healer is kind of ooming, as you can see here. And he does take an extra stack, unfortunately. So I have to B-res. And now he's playing catch-up, which is never good. Because as a Mistweaver, you need a lot of setup in order to ramp. But since he's playing catch-up, it's just becoming a little bit harder to keep everyone up. Now this was the 3rd one that we used. And I was expecting for the next Absolute Zero for it to kill us. But our first one we used on the right-hand side ends up coming back. So that's pretty cool. Use our second B-res on our healer here. Doesn't take it straight away because I think he's a bit scared about where it is. But yeah, it ends up being coming back up again. And we just run back over there, making sure we try to stay alive. But, you know, Grievous is ticking. People are dying. We do end up getting it eventually, but this was definitely a lesson to learn here that we really need to focus on cleaning up the boss fight for later on when we try to get a higher level. So you're going to click this last one, not here though, always in the center, remember that, I almost make that mistake. Straight into the center, we're going to go boss, straight to the next boss, which is going to be Umbrelskul. We're going to prep ourselves for this fight now. Now this fight, right now, I'm not doing what I should be doing. Now, after this was recorded, I did figure out that if you pull the boss to the side here against the wall, all of the crystals that spawn from this boss, which are very annoying to deal with, they actually spawn in close proximity with each other if it's against the wall. So make sure you do that next time, guys. Don't do what I'm doing here, just taking it in the middle. Not a good idea. So right now, that first ability was Dragon Strike. It's going to be targeted on the tank position. Not in front of the boss, on the tank's position. Just be aware of that. That's a very small thing that could be beneficial later on. So if I end up, you know, moving away, it's going to hit me here. It's not going to hit here, so you can't dodge it as a tank. But it also means if I'm over here and the DPS want to attack in front of it, they are safe to do so if the Dragon Strike does happen. That is the main thing. Now, Crystal and Raw, I stand in front of it just to see how much damage it takes. And yeah, that's literally just a beam. Dodge it. It doesn't usually face the tank. It'll face anywhere. So just be careful of that. And Arcane Eruption is going to bring these orbs over here. These are the most annoying thing about this boss. Not to mention, if you see these debuffs over here, it's a stacking slow debuff that happens when you move in this arena. So the way to get it off is to stand still for 4 seconds. If you stand still for 4 seconds, it'll remove the debuff from you, and you'll be able to move freely, but every time you move, you will gain the stacking debuff again, and you just got to keep doing that. So just be careful, use your movement impairing removal effects in order to get around the arena a bit better. But these orbs over here are just gonna follow people. For some reason, they always target our healer. I don't know if it's proximity based exactly. You guys can tell me in the comments if it is. So if someone can like kind of bait it and then move it in. So then it's gonna cast Brittle, which is gonna remove these crystals. Now I'm assuming since it said 75% brittle, it's gonna drop them every 25%. So it'll happen 3 times, 75, 50, and 25, and then it'll die. Let's see if that's the case. I'm learning things as I'm making the video as well, which is pretty cool. So as you can see, all the orbs are following our healer over there. Poor healer. He's just running with all of them, but it makes it easier for us. I'm pretty much solo healing myself here, and our healer is just healing everyone else. Blood DK life, am I right? We're gonna wait for more arcane eruptions. Sorry, that's another 4 orbs, so there's gonna be 8 total now in the arena, which is a little bit rough now. So you do want to kind of kill this boss as quick as possible, because it does get a little bit hectic after a while. So now we're reaching the 50% mark. Does it shatter again and doesn't get brittle? It will. Yes, it will. There you go. Okay, so every 25%, it'll cast the crystals. Perfect. All right, that's something we learned there. Now, again, you need to make sure these crystals die. Otherwise, if one of them explodes, it'll put a debuff, or a damaging dot, I'm pretty sure, on everyone. Now, this is the most, you know, this is probably the hardest part of this boss is if you have a bunch of range and a bunch of melee and they all have different, like, different thundering affixes on them, like positives and negatives, and you can't get rid of it, it's a little shit. Because obviously you get slowed pretty extensively, so you need to be quick on that and find someone that you can actually remove the debuff with. Otherwise, yeah, you're just gonna get stunned, and it's not gonna be a fun time. Now, I'm desperately trying to get away from here because all these orbs are looking at me funny, and they're gonna come next to me. But I try to run away as much as possible. But obviously, as a DK, it's kind of hard to do that because you can't heal unless you're in melee. So I'm in a bit of a pickle here. I do get the bubble from the Mistweaver, which is great. I try to heal myself a little bit more. And we're in a decent position now. We're at the 20% mark. We've got the last crystals that are dropped. Now again, like I stated before, make sure you put this boss against the wall at all times if you can. The crystals will spawn closer and in more of a tight-knit proximity, rather than just all over the place and having the DPS running around like headless chickens. We don't need that. Now this dungeon was a pretty close call. We only did it with like maybe a minute and a half left on a 17, so we do need some work before we get to a 20 here, but hopefully a few great vaults and some raids will help with that. I'm currently the only person in this group with 4-piece. Unfortunately, the others did not have the same luxury as I did. But again, yeah, standard stuff. Dodge the circles. Make sure you're running away from those bombs there. Dodge the frontal, and use the defensive on Dragon Strike. And the last thing I want to say about Dragon Strike is it is magic damage, by the way. So you can AMS every second one, and you can AMZ it as well. As a warrior, you can spell reflect it, and as everything else, just use any type of magic dampening ability, and you'll be sweet. It does a lot of damage. It is the tank buster mechanic in this fight, so make sure you use something for it. And that was my KSM as well. So that was a lovely dungeon. I think it was the first 17, maybe second 17 I did, and also my KSM key. So that was cool. But yeah, sorry if I rambled a little bit. This was the first video of the season, and I haven't done videos in quite some time. So I need to get back into my funk. So I apologize for the rambling, or if I made any mistakes in the video. I appreciate everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone that has come from YouTube towards the stream and said hello. I really do appreciate all the lovely comments and support throughout the years, and I hope to do more of this in the future. Now, please let me know in the comment section below what I can work on, if I made any mistakes, if you liked some of the things that I said, if some of the tips actually helped you. and what video to do next. I have a list of things. Obviously, I have to do the 8 dungeons still. 7 now, excluding this one. And yeah, on to the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.